Keep your emotions in between the lines. A great training topic with regards to mindset, agent motivation, falls into the realm of emotions, okay? And we've talked about like when in comes this thing that hits you from the side. You know, you're having a bad day, maybe got in a fight with your spouse that morning, or you're going through some health issues, who knows? Something's happened in your personal life, let's say, or you have another tough transaction. And this transaction is getting ready to close, and then you find out the other agent on the other side dropped the ball. Let's say their buyer's backing out because they didn't get something done or something. And you're just like, and so you're angry and you're upset. So now you've got to talk to a lot of people. You're gonna have to talk to your client, maybe your seller. You're gonna have to talk to the other agent, probably right away, you're hearing it from them. You're gonna have to talk to like a title officer. You're gonna have to talk to lenders, who knows, you name it. And your emotion, you know, went from steady and stable, but maybe a little off, who knows, to like whoosh, right? And remember, your thoughts control your words, which control your behavior. So we have to really watch that first jump from thought to words. Because if the words come out bad, then your behavior, unfortunately, will tend to back it up to save face. And if we say some bad stuff, then we got to do some bad stuff. And that's where that spiral keeps on moving, right? We start bad habits, and that ultimately starts to change our very character. And we start spiraling back into even worse thoughts, worse words, worse behavior, et cetera, et cetera. So, and that all starts with that initial emotional reaction. And I do want to really talk about the emotional aspect. And you'll always hear me say this, and I want to show you what it looks like on an image. And you'll always hear me say and tell you to keep your emotions between the lines. Keep your emotions between the lines. And what I mean by that is you've got two lines here, right? You've got a high emotion and a low emotion, okay? And you can see this one gray area is someone that's getting outside the lines. They're real low and they have high highs. And then they're okay for the majority of the time and get really low and or they have high highs. So they get super excited, probably a little too excited, and then a little too bummed out. What I want is just a subtle change, right? I want a subtle change where we keep it in between the lines. This yellow line is more desirable, where even though we have ups and downs, we don't let ourselves go quite as low or quite as high, so that we maintain a more steady presence in the middle. It's still volatile. There's no way that we're all robots, but we're just not quite as high or quite as low. And that's the difference between a little bit of control. We're definitely going to get upset in the hypothetical situation I told you, but we're not going to get so low we're going scorched earth. You see what I'm saying? We're not going to go so low that we're going scorched earth and we're just going to chew everybody out, go home and bawl and cry to our spouse, threaten to quit, threaten all over the place, call the broker of the other agent, threaten to sue him. We're not going to go that nuts. We're going to get upset, but we're going to stop just short of the line. And that is often done purposefully, not naturally. In other words, we have to put that filter up from thoughts to action, like thoughts to words, and control the emotion. And in my opinion, this is by definition, this is the definition of professionalism. Your clients will freak out like that. That's what clients do. But that's not supposed to be you. You're supposed to be the professional that keeps everyone calm. I use this analogy all the time. If you want to be a professional like a doctor, can you imagine a doctor saying, "Oh my God, you have cancer. I'm a mess right now. I think I need to go home. Do you have a ride? This is tearing me up. You're going to die." I mean, can you imagine? Like the doctor is supposed to be your calming influence, the one that's level, that brings you back to level and keeps you from going too low. He can be upset and solemn, but he's got to stop just short of going below the line. Just like they don't get too excited when they say, "Guess what? You're cancer free. It's been a year now. High five. It's home free. Let's go crazy." They don't go nuts. Why? Because they know it's not over yet. They know it can come back. It always can. So they don't get too excited. They don't let you go too high so that you don't go too low. Because you get too excited, your thoughts become words, your words become behavior. You set new expectations for you and the rest of the world so that when you do get bad news later, it's even that worse to hear. This is business. It's okay for you to enjoy your job, but there are limits. So it's okay to be up and down like the yellow lines, but we can't get outside the lines, okay? Because if we do that, that starts to rub off on other people. And quite frankly, it makes us look very unprofessional. A new agent that's running around that's so excited about a closing or something, to me, looks like a rookie agent, someone who's inexperienced. And if that's how you want to look, I mean, act like you've done it before, right? Jerry Rice is probably the best wide receiver in the history of football. No one has scored more touchdowns than Jerry Rice. And he played for the San Francisco 49ers, caught a bunch of passes from Joe Montana. And one thing about Jerry Rice is he never celebrated that much his touchdowns. He would catch the ball, run into the end zone, hand the ball to the referee or the official, and go about his business, go out there and try to score another one later. And that was Jerry. And a reporter asked him once, and he goes, why don't you celebrate? Like, why don't, all these other guys are famous for their touchdown dances and celebrations, and it gets them a lot of press and notoriety, and they get more commercials and ads because of it. Why don't you ever do that? You're always so quiet, why don't you celebrate and get the fans into it? And he looked back and he goes, all those guys, when they do that, it makes me think they haven't done it that much. I've scored so many touchdowns. It's just not that big of a deal to me. I just want to get more. And now no one's scored more. And he's probably doing a touchdown dance once he set the record, that's a whole different deal. So if you want to act like a true professional, act as if you are someone that has done it before. So getting too high and getting outside the lines on these high celebratory emotions, you've seen those people. You've seen them run through the office high-fiving and telling you about every great thing and then every down thing. And you know the thoughts about those people. They're wearing too much of their emotion on their sleeve. It's not professional. And it's exhausting. It sets you up for this roller coaster. I mean, real estate is already pretty volatile based upon the way you get paid. I mean, in the winter, you've got some seasonality and there's less inventory and there's less income than in the busy season, from April, May, June, July, it's when there's a lot more sales. So you make a lot of money then. And then in the winter, you don't make as much. So there's this up and down already due to seasonality. You see a lot of people, unfortunately, leave the business that make $250,000 a year, let's say. I've seen it a million times. And they leave to take an $80,000 a year job just because of the stability of getting the same amount in their paycheck every 2 weeks. So they'll cut their pay by 2/3 just for the stability. The last thing we need in real estate is more volatility, because that'll exhaust you. The up and the down, too much of that will wear you out physically and mentally. So you got to kind of, just like an 8-year-old kid. I mean, we took our kids just recently to SeaWorld and Legoland and all these amusement parks. And we tell them, regulate, man. I mean, you're not going to make it through the day. We're going to have to go home early because you're going to be so tired because you're just freaking spazzing, So we're trying to teach them to keep their emotions and their energy between the lines. And quite frankly, as adults in real estate, I think we really need to do something along the same lines there. Is try not to get too caught up in it, which means when that naturally starts to happen, because it is natural if that's where your inclination is taking you. And that's okay. Nothing's wrong with you. But we do have to try to purposely, all right, slow it down. I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch. I'm not going to count my money when I'm sitting at the table. I'm not going to get too excited yet. I'm not going to let myself get too down here. I know that the whole country is going through something, or it's the winter time, or it's slow. That's part of the cycle. So I'm not going to let myself get too bummed. I'm going to stay the course. I'm going to see this through. So we have to actually coach ourselves up. And that's where motivation comes from. That's why if you yourself are a leader, training this to your other agents that are or followers or whoever is in your stead, to keep them reminded of this is absolutely crucial. Okay. Because I'll tell you right now, this is maintenance that we're doing by understanding and learning this right now. Okay. And I want to show you one other thing on the same topic. You see these high up and downs with the gray line versus the one that's doing a good job of keeping their emotions in between the lines with the yellow line. The gray lines, the people that have the highest tendency to get outside the lines. For those of you that are familiar with the DISC behavioral assessment, it's the D and the I behaviors that go way outside the lines. Okay? The D's will get really excited through competition, and then they'll get very angry when things don't go wrong. The I's will get very excited, oftentimes because of money, recognition, fame, making people happy, even all good-natured reasons, but that's what gets them up here so high. And then they get very depressed through rejection. Someone chooses somebody else. So they go, the D's and the I's. So you guys, if you're a D or an I behavior, which I'm a D behavior, so I got to watch this. You will have a greater tendency to sneak outside the lines. The S and the C behaviors are much more steady Eddie, even keel. It's going to be much more easy for the SC behaviors to stay steady and stay professional. And that's why they always do appear much more professional. So SCs, you're the lucky winners. This is easy for you. I know you think that you're getting outside the lines, but if you're an S or a C behavior or a combination thereof, in all likelihood, you're not. You're maintaining a strong filter. Most of the time you do. You might get depressed from time to time, but you usually bottle that up. Just talk to someone about it. Don't let that stay bottled up too much. You're not usually going above the high line, that's for darn sure, but they stay in the middle. But the D's and the I's, man, there's a lot. If you're a D and an I combo, man, this is probably a regular thing for you that you need to hear, because that's how it generally works. Okay. So it's real important. And I'll be honest with you, I've led brokerages, teams, my own companies. So I, from a leadership standpoint, this is standard operating procedure in training people on my team. This is something everybody that works for me knows and hears, because I have to explain to them. This is one of those times, anytime they get too excited or too down, I'm trying to maintain their longevity and maintain their sanity and maintain their professionalism. So I'm helping them grow through this. That's why I think it's a fabulous training topic for the real estate industry, all in all. So remember that's kind of a rule there to keep your emotions in between the lines.